good Saturday morning to the Hobby Verse. It's time for another episode of Hobby Hotline. As always, live at 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific. I haven't been on. It's been at least 3 weeks, maybe longer, but that's probably a good thing. The less of my ugly mug, but I'm joined by two other gentlemen this morning that I make them look better just by default. But to my right on the screen, Chris Harris. Morning, Chris.
Morning. I think it's been 2 months since I've been on the show.
Well, so your streak is longer
I think
than
we
mine.
need to take care of the guy that does the scheduling and put it on and put us
I don't know who.
Often, if you know what I mean.
I don't know who that is, but we're
some jabroni in Central New York somewhere.
I'll have to have a talk with that guy and see what we can do. And below us, only on the screen, as I always say, Orlando, a collector's dream. Morning, sir. How
Morning,
you doing?
John and Chris. I agree with Chris there. It's been about a month since I've been on also. So we got to talk to the scheduler.
Yeah, again, I'm going to yell at them, and they'll probably yell back at me if I know them well. So let's get some other good mornings from those out there in the chat room. Mad City Brew, good morning. From our own channel here for collectors. Hope everyone's enjoying the Major League Baseball and the NFL draft. I am. I can only speak for myself. Five foul ball. Or five foul ball. Good morning as well. Fan in the stand sports. What's up, y'all? Thundering up in Oklahoma City, baby. Here in Central New York, it is a rainy, overcast day, and that's going to be most of the weather for the whole day. So not a great day, but in Central New York, we're used to it. Peter B, 4871. Good morning from Southern New England. Is it too early to drink?
Never.
I don't know. I agree with Chris. It depends where you are. Thank you for that. Confluence Sports Cards. The Drew Aller draft pick was a waste by the Steelers. I agree. That was ugly. And if they liked him that much, and we're going to talk a little bit of draft guys, but if the Steelers liked him that much, they could have waited a few rounds and probably still got him. So that's even more disappointing that they wasted an earlier pick to make that pick. But I could
as an Eagles fan, I love it.
Yeah,
especially if you know the backstory about what happened
with Lemon. Yep.
Yeah.
You might have did us. You either skunked us there, or you might have did us a favor, depending on what side of Lemon you fall on. He says good morning to Orlando. Baseball card curmudgeon. What up, fellas? Hello. Good morning. And Vic, our very own Victor, says good morning, men and chat room. So, all right, guys. Let's get right into it. I know this show itself has kind of covered it already, but we haven't weighed in on it yet. And that's now that football falls in the licensing category of Tops and Fanatics. The box, that's taking place. The boxes are out. And the prices to me, and I'm a football card collector, so I buy football, new and vintage as well. $1,500 a box, and that's crazy to me. I get it; they got to pay for their licensing. That's expensive. The other thing I noticed, Chris and Orlando chat room, is some of the autos in it of the players are bringing more money than like their rookie autos or their RPAs from like Panini products. So to me, it's crazy. Obviously, some of the pricing has come down since its release, but it's still expensive. It's not crashed. I don't know who wants to jump in here, but I think it's crazy.
It is, but somebody's paying $1,500 for a hobby box. It ain't us collectors. I think we all know who's who the audience for this product really is and who's paying that.
Yeah, I mean,
Starts with a
obviously,
B and ends in a Rakers.
yeah, obviously, it's the breakers that have made those prices possible for the most part. I mean, when you're getting up there, in some cases, almost $2,000 for a hobby box, it's just out of control, and it's very difficult for you and me to go to the hobby store and even get it. And even when you deal with some of the hobby stores, they're not getting the allocation they should be getting. I mean, I heard Rob Barris got a total of 3 cases.
Three
He's got like
cases and a case of jumbos, and that's it.
in a case of jumbos, and he's got the biggest store, I think of in the country. So it's really ridiculous that it's going mostly to the breakers. And then you've got the Breakers Delight product, which is, I think, over $3,000 for that, for the box. I think it brings something like 12 cards. I mean, it comes out to $250 per card. I understand that, that's not going to have a lot of base or any base cards in there. They're all going to kind of be hits, I guess. But still, you're talking about $250 per card for those Breakers Delight. And I don't know. It to me, it's just out of control. I don't know, how much this can continue, and it's really taken us football card collectors kind of out of the market and wait until the prices drop so we can buy some singles here and there.
I don't know Rob super well, Orlando, and that seems crazy to me that he's only getting 3 boxes. And I hate.
Three
Excuse me,
cases.
I'm getting over it. Oh,
Yeah,
three cases.
Three
But
cases
what
of
is there?
regular
10,
hobby and one of jumbos.
Yeah.
yeah. What is there? 10 boxes a case, so 30 boxes. Again, I'm guessing. I don't know.
I think it's 12 in a case for hobby and
So
8
all right, so
or
so
10 for
36
jumbos.
boxes. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's not a lot, and I'm gonna assume he's not gonna lie. I would assume he's not gonna lie about that, or I would hope he wouldn't lie about that. But there's no shortage of it. Maybe he's not getting as much as he would like, but overall there's going to be no shortage of it across the board. Like you say, breakers. Breaking is a double-edged sword, guys. I've wrote articles about it. Right, it saved the wax industry at a time when the wax industry or the wax niche part of the hobby was sort of not where we know it to be today. So nothing doesn't sell out almost anymore. I mean, bowling cards, cornhole cards, they sell anything, and breakers will break literally anything. But where it's hurt the hobby is it's driven up the prices for the average collector that wants to just buy a box on their own and open it at home, maybe with a son or daughter or whoever or themselves, right? That's who's sort of taking it on the chin. How do you fix that, right? I mean, if that's the problem, how do you fix that? I saw someone else said Mad City, right? Boxes shouldn't be more than $175. Doesn't matter what 1-year wonders in that box. Now, obviously, products cost different amounts to make. We got products like Transcendent and Definitive that are high end. You never would see them at that price level. Well, here we're talking about, yes, it's chrome. It's not flagship regular tops, but $1,500 is $1,500, and that really prices a lot of people out of obtaining a box, other than maybe lucking out and going to Walmart and buying a blaster. But again, that's retail, not hobby. How do we fix that, Orlando or Chris, or is it
Well,
too late?
Go ahead, Chris.
Go ahead, Orlando. No, go ahead.
Well, I mean, I think it's too late to fix it right now with everything going on with all the breakers and stuff. But it's like you said, it prevents, the father and son from going to the local shop and buying a box and opening it and sharing the hobby together. But, as Fanatics has said, and they've said this publicly, they want those cards opened live. They want those cards opened on video. They want them opened on breaks, or they want them opened somewhere where as a marketing tool, they could see all the hits being come out of that box. They don't want you to open the box at home yourself with the kids where you don't see the hits, and that to them is a big marketing gimmick that they're trying to do. So, they allocate, they said over 60% to the breakers. I think now it's gotten more like probably, 70, 80%. And one thing that I know that they're doing at the local card shops, because Topps also doesn't want you to go to your local shop, buy the box, and put it online and sell it online either. So what they're doing in a lot of the local card shops is when you buy the box, and I know Rob Veras is doing this at Burbank, they cut the seal on the box. So you really can't go online and resell it. You literally either have to open the packs yourself there or open them, at home. So that's another thing they're doing.
I don't mind that, Orlando, especially if it keeps the prices down. I mean, when you go to the National and they have that, like, those giveaways for like silver packs where you buy certain products and then they open the box so you can't keep getting credit for it. That doesn't bother me. There's a reason they're doing that, right? As long as there's a legitimate reason to prevent resale. But, Topps wants to control a lot of things. They need to sort of control maybe a little bit tighter on the breakers. Here's a comment I want to get to, and I didn't forget about you, Chris, from the card deal. He says, John, the card shops near me in Cleveland, and I am talking 30-year shops, so long time LCSs are getting cut and getting the smallest of allocations. They are squeezing the shop owners, and I don't like hearing that. And I believe it, and I know it's true. And that's too bad because the LCSs, I've said this, I've given breakers their flowers for like saving the wax niche when products were getting stale. We don't have that anymore. There's nothing like an in-person transaction, right? You could buy into a break, but it's like going to a card show and purchasing a card in person, right? That never will be replaced by an online, you buy it and wait till it hits your mailbox. And as a former LCS owner myself years ago, it has a soft, card stores are important to the hobby. I don't care what no one says. There's people that don't believe that believe we can do all card shows and online transactions, but the ability to walk into your local LCS and talk to people and have that camaraderie, and not just on a Friday, Saturday, and Sunday on a show, typically when shows are, but on a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday as well. That will never be lost on me. And, when the licensing went over to Topps, I remember them saying, like, the LCS are always important to us. And so they said that. But are they it's one thing to say it, but are they doing it?
No.
I know you want to wait. Go ahead, Chris.
So I wanted to dovetail this with another thing that's going on in sports right now. And that's the price of World Cup tickets. People are complaining that it's thousands of dollars for a World Cup ticket. It should cost cheaper. Well, if you're FIFA, or if you're, in this case, Fanatics, if somebody is willing to pay 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 times much for a game ticket or a box of Chrome football, who do you want putting that money? Whose pocket do you want that money to go into? A scalper or a reseller or you? So when people complain about $1,500 for a box of Topps Chrome, I say don't hate the player, hate the game. Because Topps knows that somebody out there is going to pay $1,500 for a box of this. They want to maximize as much of that money going into their pocket than going into an LCS's pocket. So I don't blame them for that. On the other hand, I do blame Topps for the structures of these products these days now. I don't know if you follow this guy on Twitter, Slab Squatch. Are you familiar with him? Either one of you?
I've heard of them. Yeah.
You've heard of him. Basically,
Is
he's
this
done what I used to do and a lot of people used to do back in the day, and that's take the checklists and the odd sheets and throw them into Excel and see exactly how much the production runs on certain cards are. And with so many different SKUs of Chrome out there, it's almost become impossible for someone who, unless you're really, really dedicated to do these things. And I've noticed not just in Topps football, but in Topps basketball and in Topps baseball products, really the growth of these multi-case hit inserts, the kaboomization of the hobby, where you have now 4, 5, 6 different multi-case inserts that, you know, they're valuable if you hit on one of them. But on the other hand, how on earth are you supposed to collect some of these things? I want to share my screen for a moment here with something that Slab Squatch did. And that is the production runs on some of these inserts in Chrome football.
Yeah, they're crazy.
And John, can you put that on the screen?
do I have it?
There
Okay,
should
I
be
got it.
something
Oh,
on
yeah,
there.
here it is. All right,
There
here we
it
go.
is. You look at some of these, like everybody's been raving about the Tecmo Bowl inserts, right?
Right.
There's 23 cards in the set. They only made about 200 of them. The same thing with the Kanji cards. There's only 200 of those. There's only 100 of them in the total production run. How on earth is a collector supposed to collect that?
Well, there are reports going to
And-
those Tangy cards, Chris. I don't know if you heard about this. They're supposed to be rare, but other people are saying like they're just coming out way too frequently to be as rare as they're advertised.
But
Yeah,
still,
I heard some of those were like 1 in 500,000 packs.
Yeah,
Some ridiculous
and it's like,
chances.
who are these cards really for? Because they're not for collectors. Because you can't collect them. I mean, even if money were no object, how are you supposed to complete a 23 card set like the Tecmo Bowls, and there's only 200 copies of each card? How? I mean, these are not really for collectors. They're not meant to be collected. They're lottery tickets.
Yeah.
Meant to be broken. They're meant for
it's for dollar signs, Chris,
to cream his shorts whenever he pulls one of them.
Yeah, it's for the flippers. It's for the Jeff Wilsons out there that are going to be, just picking them up and reselling those things, because to have 200 each and those odds are just crazy. And you're right. You can't complete a set of 23 of those when the odds are so ridiculously high. I mean, you literally got to be a multimillionaire to get some of those cards.
And here's the thing, Orlando and Chris. I don't think Topps cares. Let's be real.
I mean, Topps has basically taken the traditional collector like me for granted for over a decade and a half now, ever since they got the exclusive license. And it shows. I mean, these are not meant to be collected. They're meant to
they're meant to be transactions. I want it. Yeah. I'm going to pay this. then I'm going to hold it and I'm going to wait a month and then I'm going to try to flip it and make a profit off of what I paid. And it's a hot potato, right?
Right.
And it's like who
Right.
gets left holding it when you can't flip it and make any money, a profit anymore. And that's the last guy who gets either stuck with it, sells it at a loss, or and the guy before who sells it at the utmost profit margin, right? You
Right.
know, Sports Card Market Review says Topps has paid employees who buy and set comps on new releases. That's why you always see new releases tank in prices in a few. And you know what? Sports Card Market Review, they don't even have to do that. I think the folks we have in the hobby are doing that themselves. When anything, it's like when anything new comes out, right? It just makes the rounds on social media. People are posting the big hits they pulled. The collectors are doing the hype for Topps themselves. And Topps doesn't even need to pay those employees to do that anymore. I'm not trying to get anyone fired, but the hobby itself is a hype machine in its own right. So we don't even need to pay the employees. Something that's come out recently, guys, that kind of ties into this, right? We talked about breaking. There's something that came out that to be in like the VIP part of Tops, like you have to pay like 100K to be in that group, and that's like a country club atmosphere, right? Like an exclusive,
Yeah.
only you can come in, and I just not the hobby, and I'm going to be the old man on the porch here. It's not the hobby I grew up in, and someone else put, I think it was Phil, like collect vintage. That's the main reason.
Yeah.
One of the
Still plenty of
important
cards out
reasons
there to
I
collect.
collect
It's
vintage.
not
Yeah,
anything
yeah.
Topps is making.
Well, I mean, John,
Whenever yeah, go
the
ahead, Orlando.
the biggest marketers are the breakers, the
Yeah,
Blez, the backyard breaks, all those guys. They're the ones that are pulling these big cards, and they're the ones that are hyping them up and screaming at you as, look what we got. So that's the number one marketing that they've got. And then another thing is, with allocations, the local LCS are not getting the allocation, but I can guarantee you that Tom Brady Vault is getting them. And now you've got Lewis Hamilton that's supposedly going to be opening up all these shops just like Tom Brady is. And those guys are going to start getting, if they're not getting them already, they'll get the allocations more than your local shops.
yeah. It's not fair. I mean, truth be told, I think most of us will agree that's not fair, and it's too bad. And that's what the hobbies become, right? Is almost a pseudo Hollywood with celebrities getting involved and opening stores. And again, it's America; it's free enterprise, right? I'm not saying otherwise, but it's just is Tom Brady or Lewis Hamilton opening a store like because they love cards? I'm sure they have some sort of passion, or is it another thing they can put in their portfolio of ownership that's going to be an income stream for them and that Tom Brady's not at the card vault, maybe a once or twice a year for a couple hours, but it's not like an LCS owner who's there 10 hours a day sorting, doing the stuff that you do as an LCS owner. And so that's a different, to me, it's a different air that's being breathed. And, and that 9 to 5 LCS owner, if you want to put it that way, is putting in the work and bloodying their knuckles up. But Topps is rather have just somebody, like a Brady or Hamilton, because, obviously they have more clout based on their name and who they are and being an
Yeah,
athlete. And,
but the
you know,
LCS is a place where not just going and buying cards, but it's a hangout. Where you can go and talk to other collectors and hang out with other collectors. And I'll go to my local LCS, and I might not buy anything, or I might just buy some, little thing here and there. But I'll spend, a couple of hours there just chatting away with the other collectors and with the owners and with the workers, and just talk about the hobby itself. And I think, when you're dealing with a Tom Brady type thing, it's more of a sterile environment. It's all about the negotiating and stuff. It's not about really chatting and talking about the hobby and talking to other collectors that have the same mindset as us. It's more of just a different environment altogether.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I want to
listen.
comment on. Oh, go ahead, John.
I'm real quick, Chris. I'm a Topps kid. I grew up in Brooklyn, New York. They were in my backyard. I mean, I don't like, not saying flattering things about them, but I'm also an honest person. So, I'm not going to lie because I love Topps when I was a kid. This is not your grandfather's Topps,
No.
right? Or your dad's Topps. And in my case, I'm old enough. This isn't my Topps anymore. So here's a great comment, right? From Phil. What do you think Seiberger would think? I think it would be bittersweet for him, Phil. And here's what I mean by that. Let's not sugarcoat it, right? Seiberger was a marketeer in his own right. So I think on one side, I think he would be excited to see the popularity and what things are going for. And I think the other side of him, who I think did care about the everyday collector, would be disappointed on that front. So I think if Seiberger was still here today, I think it would be bittersweet. I can't speak for him, but from what I know about him and reading a lot about him and knowing history of the hobby, I think he'd feel both of those emotions. I think he'd be happy that the hobby and what stuff is doing, but disappointed that maybe the average collector or the higher percentage of the hobby can't afford some of the products like they used to when he was with Topps. So that's how I would answer there.
Yeah, and I just want to say that I'm not against progress. I get it. I'm not against expanding the hobby and Xing it. I'm also not necessarily against case hit inserts either. I mean, case hits have been around since the 90s, but that's what exactly what they were. They were case hits. You opened up a case, you got one of these things. The Topps home field advantage cards, one of the reasons why they're so popular is that they are case hits. These were like one in every 220 to 240 pack inserts, and they're popular because they're scarce, but you could still realistically collect them. So naturally, in Series 1 this year, they became one in every 3,000 pack inserts and are now multi-case. I wanted to respond to that comment from Vintage Card Collector 433. I went to the Tom Brady card vault a couple of years ago in Foxborough. And this was before Tom Brady was involved in it. So it was just card vault. And I was in and out in like 3 minutes. It was all marked up blaster boxes and overpriced slabs. I was really trying to look for maybe $1 box or a $5 box. I could not find one. So not really impressed. And if that's really the future of card shops, then future's not really looking so good. So
yeah, remember
I want to back.
Seiberger,
Yeah, go ahead.
Going back to Seiberger, he marketed to kids. Well, they're not marketing to kids anymore. They're marketing to adults with a lot of money. It's a totally different era.
Yeah. I want to backtrack and go to a comment I really love from Cooter Lev, right? He says breaking is not the hobby, it's a casino that will not produce lifetime collectors. I like that comment because I think I think that's a good point. And you can be in the hobby. You don't need to. I haven't bought into a break in probably 8-9 years, and even when I did, it was very sporadic, just to see a new product and whatnot. You can be in the hobby without being buying into a break. You don't need breakers are not going to like what I'm about to say. You don't need a breaker to be part of the hobby. You can go to your LCS and buy single cards or packs that are affordable. You can go to your show and do the same if there's shows in your area. So if you don't like an aspect of the hobby, right, you don't have to be, you're not a hostage to it. You can do other things that you can still enjoy. So, like for me and Orlando with heavy vintage PCs, right? Everything we buy has already been made. We don't have to worry about what's the release price on this product. We're looking for cards that are already made. Chris as well with his 90 insert chase. So you can do things like that. And that's just a few examples. There's way more than that as well. If you don't even like the card, like we're talking about Topps Chrome at $1,500 a box, don't buy a box. Just buy singles. Wait a little bit when the hype dies down. That stuff all comes down. It all comes down eventually. I mean, unless it's something that's ultra rare that sort of maintains its price hold. Even your base rookies that like someone put, there's 100,000 of whatever base rookie you eventually want to buy. That will come down. Sometimes a little patience will make your wallet or purse a little bit thicker. So, if you can remain patient, you can still even be active in the new part of the hobby as well. It doesn't have to be just vintage. So, you kind of control your money, right? Where it goes and whatnot. So I've always said, like, right, the hobby, we have the power. It's just sometimes we just don't use it very well, right? And that's why we see some of the prices. Guys, we've talked about this for a while. Any kind of, just to wrap it up, any kind of comments before we move?
Yeah, I mean, the hobby is not going to survive without collectors. And this is something that the Rubens, the Mahans, the Larashkis of the world have never understood. And you can jam products with all these breaker bait, which is what these are. But if you're not creating products that can actually be collected, then you're not going to have a hobby. Now, you might not be able to 10x the hobby, but 2xing, 3xing, 4xing it by creating new collectors, that's something that's more rational, I think. So,
yeah, obviously the collector is going to be the end user. After all these flipping takes point. Basically, you just have to be patient. You can already get last year's cards, in the dollar boxes. So if you're patient enough, you may not be able to get them this year cheap, but next year you'll be able to pick up some of those base rookies and stuff in dollar boxes in many cases. So
when you're looking through them, look to your left or right. You may see Dr. Beckett right next to you.
Yeah, exactly.
In the same boxes. Or Chris or me.
Yeah, so I think we could move on to the next subject, because we could talk about this all day, and it's just we're not going to be able to change the way things are going. They're controlling pretty much what the industry is, but the industry is different than the hobby. We're more hobbyist than the industry.
Yep, it's a great point.
So just focus on your collection, focus on what you're doing, and be patient, and you'll be able to buy some things at affordable prices in the future.
Yep, be smart with your money and your purchasing power, and you'll amass a great collection in your own way as well. All right, it's ongoing, literally as we speak. We're kind of competing against it, if you will. But the NFL draft, I am those that know me, I'm an NFL draft nerd. I follow college football. I'm a huge Steeler fan. That's a show in itself. And I watch, Thursday and Friday is appointment TV for me. I'm in front of the TV, maybe with some pizza and wings, seeing what the Steelers do, seeing what some of the other teams do. Um, and when we equate the draft to the hobby, right? Those of us who partake in the football aspect of the hobby know it's a heavy quarterback driven hobby. This year's quarterback class, obviously with the number one pick Mendoza going to the Raiders, a great kid, a really great story. He had a great college career, especially his senior year, ending in an undefeated title. I think he's going to be good in the NFL. How good, we're going to see. But after him, when we're talking about quarterbacks, guys, this is not a strong quarterback class this year. Next year, on paper, looks to be the better one. So we're seeing these, $1,500 boxes of Topps Chrome with last year's rookie class. The new one with the Mendozas and that quarterback driven class is not going to be, to me, as strong. Kind of your thoughts here on the draft. And we've seen some strides made with other positions becoming more collectible receivers. Running backs are sort of making a comeback when they were sort of a forgotten position. Jeremiah Love was the third pick this year by the Cardinals. Little high. We saw Genti go first round last year to the Raiders. He had an up and down rookie season. I think that was more because of the team he's on than anything else, in a bad offensive line. I still am a big Genti fan. Just weigh in here, guys, on this year's draft and kind of correlate it to the hobby.
You want to go, Chris?
You can go first, Orlando.
Okay. Well, I mean, it was great to see Fernando Mendoza as a Miami guy, and
Yeah.
a guy from, I'm Cuban originally. It's great to see him as being from Miami. Parents are Cuban, and really is the first Cuban or Latin player to go first pick in the draft. So it was a big story here in South Florida. You know, initially people thought he was a great player at Christopher Columbus High School, probably one of the best players in South Florida at the time. And everyone was disappointed when he wasn't drafted by the University of Miami, especially when Mario Cristobal was also a player at the Christopher Columbus High School, the same school as Mendoza was from. And they let him go. And, he really kind of went unnoticed until he went to Indiana. And he just became a true star, undefeated season. So it's great to see him and his success. And he's a real humble guy, God-fearing guy, comes with a great family. And he's a self-made guy. He worked his ass off to get to where he is today, and he earned every single bit of it. But as far as the other drafts, I mean, I've seen a lot of linemen, a lot of offensive, defensive linemen going, high. Very few skilled positions, like even wide receivers and running backs. Very few of them have gone in the first rounds. I mean, I just noticed that a lot of defensive players are going, and a lot of these big, 6'5", 300-pound guys. That's who the Dolphins picked as their first draft pick. So I don't see a lot of skilled players going this year, especially quarterbacks. Like you said, even Carson Beck,
who I'm not a fan of.
Final, and maybe not the best quarterback, but still, he wasn't drafted until late last night.
Yeah.
So,
and Ty Simpson, the second quarterback off the board, 13 in the Rams. And again, I'm an NFL nerd, if you will.
Yeah.
The rumor there is that the GM Snead wanted him and McVay didn't, and the GM won making the pick. So, Matt Stafford just won an MVP. I know he's getting a little long in the tooth, but he didn't retire. So Simpson's going to have to learn from him. McVay still likes Stetson Bennett. So now they're bringing Simpson into this mix. And so if you watched McVay's press conference and read between the lines, he wasn't really excited about the pick. You could tell like it was a GM pick rather than a head coach pick. I mean, he said all the right things. Obviously, you don't want to show up your own GM or besmirch your new draft pick in Simpson, but you could tell that McVay, I think wanted to go in a different direction. When the team in your division, the Seahawks, just won the Super Bowl, and your first pick is at the very least at the start at backup quarterback. I don't think he was happy with that. I love those kind of stories, but again, I'm an NFL nerd. So, the NFL has made the draft an event almost like the Super Bowl, right? It's now going to be in a different city near the stadium every year. And, in Pittsburgh, I almost went to this thing being a Steelers fan. Just couldn't make it work with things I had on the home front. But 320,000 other people did go, guys. And so this thing is a major event. It obviously brings money into whatever city it's in, much like the Super Bowl would do. And so whether you like the NFL or you don't, right, the NFL is, speaking of marketeering, right, they're on the forefront of the four major sports at making these major events accessible to people. The baseball draft is not like that. The NHL draft is in an arena, but not on par with what we see in the NFL. And so the NFL is knows how to market itself. And again, I've never been to the draft now that it's a public event, but I always watch it on TV. And it's tradition. The first night, me and my son. We watch it together. We order some pizza and wings, and we've done that since he's been about 12, and he's 26 now. So it's kind of a family thing. And my wife's a football fan, so she watches as well. And the NFL's got doing it right when it comes to that. But going back, this year's draft class, hobby-wise, might be a little lean, and so Topps better enjoy those $1,500 prices on this year's Chrome, because I don't know if the player that we see in this draft will be able to drive it, in subsequent releases.
Well, what Topps doing. I mean, you may want to flash there. They've already started with the Topps now, and
Yeah.
as you saw on ESPN, there they had every pick signed their first Topps card, and you see that one there with Mendoza, and they did it right on stage as soon as they were picked, and they talked a little bit. They went to the side, and they had this lady had them sign their first card, almost like a MLB debut patch type card, But it's a Topps now. They're already up for sale right now on the website, and I think it actually ends tomorrow. So if you're going to buy one of these things, you're going to have to get it by tomorrow. And they've done this for all of the top picks. And, of course, you have parallels and all that. But the main hit is the card that they signed, their first auto, kind of like I said, the Major League debut patch card. It's their NFL draft card. And they had each one sign one card that will be the big chase in this Topps Now product that they just released yesterday.
That doesn't bother me. Like, I think there's a place for that. Like, I'm not probably going to be able to afford it or buy it, but I think there's a place for that, right? I think, I bash on Topps. I got to give flowers when they're due, right? The Major League debut patches that they started for baseball, Orlando and Chris. I love that idea. Again, unless you pull it out of a pack, I'm not going to be able to afford it. I'm not going to own one. Well, maybe a lesser player, but generally speaking, that's something you hope you hit when you're opening a product. And if you have to buy it, you're going to have to pull out your checkbook. But I love that. Right now, they're doing that in the NFL. They're doing that with their NBA releases as well. And it's really a true 1-on-1, right? That is the patch they wore on their debut. And if that said player, right, becomes a Hall of Famer, multi-time All-Star, how cool of a piece of memorabilia is that, right? To either own or even see, maybe in, like Dick's bought the Skeens and put it in their like headquarters store, right? Where you can go see it. I don't have a problem with that. While I'm not going to be in the market to buy one, I don't even have to luck to pull one. I still get it. I like it. It's a piece of history, whether you like it or not. So kudos for that idea, and they're continuing. And I don't mind the sign thing because it's similar to that debut patch, right? They're doing it on stage at the draft, and you're watching them do it. And it's just, to me, it's it's a cool piece of history. I'm a history guy. So anytime you can get the hobby and history and sort of meld them together, Chris and Orlando in the chat room, I'm not opposed to that. Whether I can afford it or not has nothing to do with whether it's a good idea or not. So, I like it. And going back to Mendoza, he's an easy kid to root for. You don't have to be from Miami. You don't have to be an Indiana Hoosiers fan. It's just like you said, Orlando. It's just a humble kid who's worked hard, who, anytime you see an interview, he's always quick to give everyone else around him credit. His family, his O-line, his receivers, his running back, and he tries to take very little for himself. So while not being a Raiders fan, I definitely be, rooting for Mendoza, and except when he plays the Steelers. But even then, I don't want to see anything bad happen. I just want the Steelers to have more points at the end of the day. And, we'll see what kind of pro career he has. I know Brady is part ownership of the Raiders, and maybe he'll work with them in the preseason and camps leading up to. I don't know why you wouldn't if you own that team and it's such a quarterback driven league. So he might have some tutelage there from a legend in his own right. So I'll be rooting for him. Yeah, I think that they're hoping Mendoza wins the gig and Cousins sort of backup security, or like it's a good point.
Well, he doesn't need to play immediately, though. That's the
thing. They might start out with Cousins. They might start out with Cousins, see how that works, and then before going to Mendoza. With the philosophy is once you hand the keys to Mendoza, you can't go back again. That's it. So
yeah, I'd like to see what similar to what they did with Mahomes, where they didn't play him right away and they gave him a chance to kind of slowly get into it, and then he became a superstar.
Redshirt,
yeah.
My guy Tony said he's still waiting for the jockstrap patch insert. That's coming. Series 2, Chrome. You'll get your jockstrap patch. Not scratch and step. Put that in the top loader as soon as you pull it, Tony. Just to keep the freshness
in. You'll get the laundry tag patch on that one.
Yeah, there you go. Which we like getting, when it comes to, game used jerseys and whatnot. So, all right, guys, I don't want to spend a lot of time because we spent a lot. The NBA playoffs are ongoing. I'm not, I just said I would have much of an NFL nerd. I'm not a big NBA guy, so I don't want to come across as one because I'm not. The playoff series, Detroit and Orlando are tied at 1. Oklahoma City has a 2-game lead, 2-0 over Phoenix. Atlanta and the Knicks, it's 2-1 Atlanta. Minnesota has a 2-1 game advantage over Denver. Cleveland 2-1 game advantage over Toronto. San Antonio without Wemby as a 2-1 game advantage over Portland. Boston's leading Philly 2-1. This one surprises me with the injuries the Lakers have. They're 3-0 against Houston. Houston looks like they're about to be the first team, unless they make some incredible comeback. Um, they'll be the first team eliminated, and the Lakers are going to probably get Doncic and Reeves back, and I don't see them winning an NBA title. Oklahoma City's the defending champ. But Wemby's hurt for San Antonio, as I mentioned, and they're still leading that series right now. The NBA, we just talked about the NFL draft class this year being a little bit on the weaker side, especially on the offensive prospect. I thought the NBA was sort of downturning, and then they had the rookie class they had this year with Cooper Flagg, Con Knipple, and others. I think that bought them some more time. But I think, if the future draft classes are not great for the NBA, that can be hurt. I'm not an NBA guy. I have cards. I have more of it in my show inventory than my PC, full disclosure. But some thoughts here on the NBA playoffs, the star power, and the hobby. I don't know who wants to go first.
Well, I
here.
mean, we'll have to kind of wait and see how it all comes out. I mean, I'm really kind of worried a little bit about Wemby. I mean, Wemby is really pretty much, yeah, you got Cooper Flag and Knipple, but Wemby is the guy when it comes to basketball now. I mean, his cards are the ones that are really the ones everybody's hunting for. And recently I saw Blaise interview a guy that paid $1 million for a Wemby card, and a lot of his cards are selling, $500,000, 600,000. So that's kind of a concern with him getting injured there. I know it's just a concussion, but you got to remember he also had some blood clot issues before.
Yeah.
He's still young, definitely he's the most talented player in the NBA, but the injury, he's just so tall and lanky and skinny that, it just worries me of the people that are investing such huge dollars into Wemby cards. It's pretty scary if I had, $500,000 Wemby card, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I think it's scary if you have a $500,000 card of anyone that's still playing, right?
Yeah,
Unless it's
that's
a
true
Babe
too.
Ruth, unless it's a Babe Ruth or Ty Cobb or Honus Wagner, that's a risky proposition. It's risky there too, but a lot less risky. Let's put it that way, Orlando. Chris, I know you're a Philly guy. I don't know how much of an NBA Philly guy you are, but just if you want to weigh in here.
Yeah, I'm kind of frustrated because we're playing the Celtics because the Celtics the years the Sixers had the number one pick in back-to-back years, they picked Ben Simmons and Markelle Fultz, who are no longer on the team. And Boston had the number 3 pick those 2 years and picked Jason Tatum and who's that other guy? But anyway,
Jaylen Brown.
Yeah, and they're just carving up the Sixers all throughout this series. But Sixers got a good young team with Edgecombe, who's probably the 3rd best rookie to come out of this class. Maxi's a star, and if Embiid ever gets healthy again, I mean, hope and pray, but
well, I think we're seeing in the NBA, right? It's the young stars are like taking over as the LeBrons age out and are on the very back 9 of their careers, right? The league needs these young guys healthy. So, I think that's important. They got some of that young influx of talent, but again, a couple bad draft classes, right? When we speak of the hobby, that can hurt the hobby side. So we'll see how that plays out. All right, guys, we're coming down the home stretch, and this is a big topic that we want to talk about, right? Vintage, probably the safest bet, in my opinion, in the hobby, remains strong, right? We're seeing still more record pricing Orlando, you were just in
Yeah, I
Strongsville.
mean,
Uh,
I know we don't have much time, but I do want to make sure we
we can go a little.
get
We can
this.
go a little overtime.
Yeah,
Like I don't
yeah,
want to
because
shortchange it.
I think it's really a huge subject right now to talk about. I mean, we know the hobby's on fire modern, but let me tell you, vintage, to me, from what I've seen, is hotter than ever. And at Strongsville, I saw a lot more collectors than I've ever seen. It was a huge show. All of the dealers told me they had their biggest show ever. Most of them even bigger than the national, you know. And a lot of people, there was a lot of money being spent. And I saw some people that I met that were collecting modern cards that now moved over to vintage end of it, and a lot of big money is coming into vintage. I don't know whether it's coming from the Bitcoin or from the people that invest in the market, but I was seeing big dollars. I mean, 52 Manos being sold. The Jackie rookies were being sold like if it was just water. I mean, it was crazy the way that the money was flowing over there, and the big thing now has become the eye appeal part of it. Cards with good eye appeal are just going for way above the comps. I mean, you almost can't even use comps. I was watching cards like the Jackie Leaf in a 3 selling for prices of in a 5. If it was nicely centered or even had a good eye appeal. And then you got the Mike Baker stickers. Mike Baker
There you
was
go.
there, and people were submitting cards there. And I'm telling you, those cards are really, as soon as they get that sticker, from what I've seen, and Greg from Midlife did a video on this yesterday, and I think we should all go watch it if you're interested in it. But he did an analysis and showing that the silver stickers, silver Mike Baker stickers, the prices were selling 50% overall over the comps. And if they get the gold sticker, they were selling at 75% over comps. Now, it's the sticker, but I think overall it's just the eye appeal. I was trying to buy some cards, and I know that I bought some nice stuff, and one of the cards that I bought, I paid over comps because of the eye appeal. It didn't have a sticker or anything, but it was just a great looking card. And I think that is the trend right now, and that a lot of people are, because of the modern hobby being so expensive, a lot of people are moving into vintage, and I literally saw that, and I just saw people paying over comps. Anything that looked decent, that was nicely centered, you're going to pay over comps or even way over comps in many cases. So I think the vintage hobby is on fire from what I saw.
Yeah, what are you guys? What are your thoughts? And Chris here too. I think I'm going to have him on the show at some point. I'm efforting that, but Mike Baker, what are your thoughts on these? Like, his stickers, right? To talk about the eye appeal or what he evaluates the card. I feel like that's what you're doing when you get the card graded itself, right? So you're in a
Yeah.
sense paying for grading twice. I get it, whatever, they do this. I'm not a coin collector, but I know they do this on the coin side of the hobby. It's called the green bean sticker. So there's a group on the coin collecting side that does, and they did it, quite frankly, before Mike Baker did it on the card side. So I don't want to give chronological order, right? They put this green bean. I don't know the company that does it, but they kind of grade the grade, right? And in coins, my buddy who collects coins is telling me it can bring 20 to 50% more depending on the coin. And now we're seeing that with what Mike Baker does. And I just like, do I want to pay more because he puts a diamond sticker on it, or do I just want to buy the card and the grade for whatever I feel is like the fair market price? It's to me, it feels like a money grab, but people are paying it, so I guess maybe it isn't. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
where do
I
you
mean
fall in on?
it, it does sound like a money grab, but people are paying it, especially people that are newer to the hobby, or especially newer to the vintage part of the hobby, that they have money to spend. they're taking that as, kind of a second opinion type thing versus just, them knowing vintage and knowing eye appeal. But I really think that the the older collectors like me and the people that's smart enough to know an eye appeal card, and this is an opportunity because you can get a good eye appeal card right now that, like this is my pickup that I got, and I had to share that. But it's a one, but it's a beautiful one. It's the 33 Lou Gehrig DeLong card, and it's just it has the eye appeal for me. Doesn't have the sticker, doesn't have anything on it, but it's a card that if you look at the other ones, this really is way above the grade in my opinion. So if you have a good eye, I think for vintage guys, this is a good opportunity to get a great card, you know, and get it before it gets stickered. I think is the key, because once it
Yeah,
gets
great
stickered,
comment.
yeah,
Great comment here from Sports Guru 17. We're getting away from the card itself. People are looking at the grades and stickers first. And
Yeah.
and there's some truth in there, right? When I go to the National here in a few months, and that thing's sneaking up on us quick, um, you know, I have a list, Orlando, and I know I've talked about this before, of probably 5 to 7 vintage cards I want for my PC. And I'm looking for the card first, and obviously the grade's going to, you know, determine what price it's going to cost me. And I kind of go in knowing I'm looking for it maybe in this grade range, right? Um, but I'm looking for the card first, and then all that other stuff. But they are factors, right? We obviously can't discount them. They're important factors. But I'm not a big. I don't have any of my PC vintage stuff. I don't have any Mike Baker ones, if you will. I'm not saying I never own one, but I'm not going to pay an extreme amount more just because of that, is what I'm saying. But if I picked up one in a trade or something, I don't have a problem with it. But it's almost like if you pay for it, you're paying for grading twice, which some people do, right? People crack stuff out because they don't like the grade and send it back in. They're paying for grading twice. So obviously, he's doing good business, so there's a market for it, right? He's traveling to these shows. He's at the National, so business must be good. I know TJ mentioned, he may not be the most honest guy in the world. That's a show in itself. I'm just not a fan of that. Again, I'm not saying I never owned a card with the diamond sticker on it. I just not going, for me, speaking for only myself, I'm not going to pay an extreme amount more for that. I don't need it. It's not a prerequisite for me. I would never even probably submit a card to them to pay for that service. But enough people are where he's doing good business. Chris, weigh in here. You collect vintage as well, even with the '90s stuff now, which is
It's
the
not
way things are going.
vintage. Come
It's
on.
not. It's not. But it's not. You know where I'm going. But the vintage market, whether you collect it or not. Kind of
Yeah.
weigh in here as we come down the home stretch when it pertains to where the vintage market is, and if you want to give your thoughts on this Mike Baker
Well, first of all,
diamond.
I collect cards, not numbers, or
Yeah.
stickers. So that's just me. Um, as an economist, I want to say that we're kind of in a period of economic uncertainty right now. And when that happens, a lot of people flock to real assets, things like precious metals, real estate, and yes, even collectibles. So I think a lot of people are getting into vintage just as a storage of value for now, just to ride it out for a few years. We'll see how long this boom in vintage cards lasts. So
Yeah, and the other thing I've heard here, and it's a good point, right, from Sports Card Market Review. Why
Yeah.
don't they put the sticker on the back of the slab or the bottom back corner, right? Sticker on the front looks bad. And again, I talked about the green bean sticker on the coin hobby. They put it on the front too. I think they put it on the front. I don't disagree with that point. Um, but I mean, I think they they put it on the front because they feel whether you agree with it or not, like me or someone else, right? That enhances the value. So you want that if you're a seller and you want have that in your showcase, right? You want that sticker to be prevalent. If it's on the back, you may not see it. Now you can tell someone, yeah, that Yogi Berra has a NBA sticker on the back, right? Um, but if it's not on the front and you price it accordingly, your card might look overpriced. Some will argue it's overpriced anyway if you're charging extra for the the NBA sticker on it. So that's why it's on the front, right? It's to get more money out of that card. The truth be told, but does it change the look of the card? Yeah, but anyone that is either buying that card, they want it on the front because they probably reselling it and they want to get the most bang for their dollar. If it's in your PC collection, you probably want it more on the backside of the card. But you know, to me, it's just another way to someone can make money for themselves in the hobby. Again, this is America. The demand is there. Enough people are using Mike Baker's service. So I guess the proof's in that pudding. For me, I don't need it. It's not a prerequisite. I don't own any cards with that sticker. I'm not opposed to it. If I bought a card and it didn't cost me really more and that sticker was there, then so be it. Or if I made a trade and it was for a card with an NBA sticker, I'm not opposed to it, but I can live without it just the same. So that's kind of where I weigh in. I'm efforting to get him on the show. He's a hard guy to pin down. But I'll ask him some of those tough questions. I mean, that will be, one of the questions I ask, like, why should your opinion, other than being a former grader, why is your opinion worth as much as it seems like it is, right? So, I feel like me, Orlando, Chris, and many of you out there can look at a card and say, man, that's a really
Mm.
nice looking 3 or 4. I think most people have done this long enough. They can kind of make those assessments themselves. We don't have stickers per se, but we can still conversate about it and, talk about it. Like my Jackie rookie and my Aaron rookie, anyone I show it to, it doesn't have a Mike Baker sticker, but they're like, that's undergraded, man. That's that eye appeal on both of those cards. Like I've even had people say, you ever thought about resubbing it? I've thought about it. I'm probably not going to do it, but that's what eye appeal is. Those kind of conversations, and I think we're all capable of having them if we're experienced enough in the hobby, right? If you look at enough cards, like you can put 2 4s next to each other, and one may look just a lot better than the other, and that's just how
Yeah,
it works, right?
that's a great point, John. If you know, you know, But again,
Yeah,
I think the sticker is sometimes more kind of for newer collectors and almost like a status symbol, saying, look what I got with a sticker and stuff, versus looking at the actual card and getting a card that looks, undergraded. That's what I look for.
yeah, and listen, give credit whether you like him or you don't, or you're a fan of the service or you're not. He's marketed it and he's doing well. Like I got to give that sort of credit. While it may not be a service I use, enough other people believe in it. So it's just not my bag. And again, I hope I can get him on because I'm going to be respectful and use tact. But I've definitely got some pointed questions I'd like to hear how he answers it and his kind of takes on it. So And again, that's the beauty of it all, right? We all have opinion, right? When we're buying a vintage card, when we're buying any card, I don't even want to make it just vintage, but when we're buying any card, right? Our opinions is whether we pull out our wallet or not and make the purchase, right? It's hope, and that's the way it should be. It should be. Yeah, this is my new service. Phil in Oklahoma says the JNA, John Newman Authentication. I don't have a sticker, but I do evaluate. We all evaluate if we're about to make a purchase. Whether or not that card passes the muster for the price we're going to pay, and that's how it should be, right? It's your money, it's your wallet, it's your account. You should be able to, make that decision. And there's nothing wrong with too. Like if I'm at the National or any show, right? And Orlando's there or Chris is there and they're nearby, like, hey, what do you think? We've all done that, right? Hey, what are you thinking? Thinking about buying this? What do you think? It's always nice to get sort of a second opinion, but those ones are free. There's a difference between a free second opinion and one that might cost you 40, $50. So, for some, they don't have I rather just ask a hobby friend, like, hey, you think this is a decent deal? I'm leaning that way. Either talk me off the ledge or tell me to buy it real quick. So and there's nothing wrong with that, right? It's the fraternity of the hobby. It's fun, and I've had people say, John, I think I'd hold off. And that, well, what's my next question? Okay, why? What's the reasoning? Why do you say that? And generally, they have a good reason, and now it's up to me whether I take their advice or pull the trigger anyway, right? At the end of the day, it's still your decision. Sometimes it's nice to get a second opinion. So we went a little over time, but I didn't want to shortchange this topic and eye appeal and vintage. We've talked about the how strong the modern is doing. The vintage is right there, just the same. And so in Orlando, just getting back basically from Strongville, I wanted to touch on that as well. So whatever you collect, right, modern, vintage, both. Again, you could, it's like I say with my mantras, right? You're the CEO of your hobby. So what you want to buy, what you don't want to buy, what you want to partake in, what you don't want to partake in. At the end of the day, that's the beauty of it, is you get to decide. So, Orlando, Chris, thank you for me. I'm headed to about an hour and 20 minutes from Cooperstown. I'm meeting a friend there today on a rainy New York day. I'll be headed to Cooperstown. I haven't been there in a couple years now. So my friend Brad from Georgia is in Cooperstown and said, hey, come out here and hang out with me. So that's where I'm headed. Any big plans for the weekend, Orlando, Chris?
No, not much.
Yeah, just recovering from my recent arm surgery.
Yeah, yeah. Chris had surgery. We wish. I think I speak for many, wishing you speedy recovery and healthy recovery. With an arm and shoulder as a former athlete myself. Actually, I still play men's competitive softball, right? Sometimes you don't realize the importance of something until you lose the use of it. So we're wishing you speedy recovery and to get it back as close to his 100% as you can. Orlando, good to see you as always, doing well. And I got to get, speaking of Strongville, everyone always asks me, like, you got to get here. I haven't never been yet. For me, it's always so close to the National that I don't know if it's in the budget to do both. So if I think Orlando, if I ever take a national year off where I know I'm not going to the National, then it might be something where I can try to work that in rather, because it is drivable. So that's 5 hours I can drive there. It's just that I don't want to go and not get anything. And Orlando kind of scared me with what he said. Everything's kind of going for and more. So but there are always deals, right? There are always deals to be had, even in a really bull and strong market. There's always deals to be had. So, all right, guys. Thanks as always, and We'll see you next week. Chat room. I say it all the time I'm on, but it's not lip service. We appreciate you. You could be somewhere else and not here, and you're here. And even if you're listening to us after the fact on an audio platform, you're doing the same, right? You're donating your time to the show. And from all of us here at Hobby Hotline, we appreciate you. Take care, everybody. Have a great weekend.
Later.
Thanks, guys.